All right, welcome everyone to our How Guidance Counselors Can Assist Engineering and Math Applicants. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Abby, my pronouns are she, they, and I'm the undergraduate recruitment coordinator for the Faculty of Engineering. I'm really excited to be here, and I'm joined by a couple of experts, as well as some folks in our Q&A who are excited to answer questions, talk generally about how you can support your students in applying to engineering or mathematics at the University of Waterloo. All right, before we dive into things, I do just want to do a territorial acknowledgement. So the University of Waterloo acknowledges that much of our work takes place on the traditional territory of the neutral Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee peoples. Our main campus here in Waterloo is situated on the Haldeman Tract, and that's the land that was granted to the Six Nations, including 6 miles on either side of the Grand River. Our active work here at the university towards reconciliation takes place across our campuses through research, learning, teaching, and community building. And all of that is centralized within our Indigenous Initiatives Office. You can visit nativeland.ca to learn more about the land that you occupy and learn more about the history of the land and the land that we're working and living on. I do just want to go over a few housekeeping notes. So closed captioning is available by clicking on the CC button at the bottom of your screen. You can submit questions using the Q&A button, which is also found at the bottom of your screen, and questions will be answered throughout the presentation via typed responses, and we'll also be doing a live Q&A panel after the presentation. So feel free to hold on to any questions until then as well, or put them into the Q&A throughout the presentation. You can also email our admissions team at enginfo@uwaterloo.ca or mathinfo@uwaterloo.ca with any specific or additional questions that you might have after this webinar. All right, without further ado, I'm going to hand you over to our first presenter, Meg.
Okay, good morning or good afternoon or good evening, everyone, wherever you're joining us from. As Abby mentioned, my name is Meg McClellan, and I'm the Director of Undergrad Recruitment and International here in the Faculty of Mathematics. And a warm welcome to all of you from around the world, and thanks for joining us today. I'm excited that you're excited to help your students apply to the Faculty of Math and Engineering here at the University of Waterloo. I would imagine that some of you who are new to counseling, and some of you have been through the guidance counseling position for many years, are on the call today. Either way, Bill and I hope you find this session informative and useful for your students who are interested in Waterloo, whether it's a refresh or it's all new to you. So we're going to start from the beginning, and let's talk about where we're located. Waterloo, as you see there, is located in Ontario, Canada. Canada is a very safe and diverse place to work and live, and we celebrate the fact that students come to study with us from all over the world, and we actively recruit from various countries, and we're proud to say about 30% of our undergrad student population comes to us from an international destination. So we have really good brand recognition. Some of you on the call today are joining from outside of Canada, which is great to see. You can see the red dot there on the screen. We're located about an hour's car ride west of Toronto. We're known as Canada's Silicon Valley, with over 1,000 startup companies, and about 95% of those have ties back to the University of Waterloo. The Kitchener, Cambridge, Waterloo area is often called the Tri-Cities area, and our population is now close to about 600,000. I think the last time I checked, it was 585,000. And we have one of the youngest demographic populations in Canada, and this is in large part due to the 2 universities in our city and 1 college. So there's many events and things geared towards young people, which makes it a great university town. Next slide, please, Abby. Thank you. As the title of this webinar suggests, we will be focusing on the Faculty of Math and Engineering this morning, but we also wanted to highlight that we are a full comprehensive institution as well. We're a relatively young university at just over 60 years old, but we're a full comprehensive university. We offer over 100 programs that reside in 6 different faculties. So we have many different programs to satisfy all of your students' skills and interests, whether it's a Bachelor of Arts, Environment, Health, Science degree. And of course, we have our Bachelor of Applied Science and Bachelor of Math and Computer Science as well. So you can see the 6 faculties listed there that encompass all of the University of Waterloo. Okay. So Bill and I want to focus on math and engineering today, but it's important to talk about some really great strengths of the University of Waterloo in general before we get into the math and engineering specifics. Excuse me. I wanted to highlight some institutional brag points. We've been named Canada's most innovative university for a number of years, and I think this is in large part because of our unique position to help students gain not only entrepreneurship experience and have the resources for students, to expand a business or expand an idea, but also because we have a very unique cooperative education program here at the University of Waterloo. We excel in a number of different academic programs, but a lot of students tell us they choose Waterloo because of our unique cooperative education program that's built right into their degree, starting right in first year. And what this does is this allows students to gain up to 24 months of paid industry work experience. And because of this, we're recognized as a leader in this area. And you can see this by the rankings on the screen if you'll allow me to brag a little bit. We are #1 in Canada for a graduate employment rate, #2 in Canada for connecting students with industry employers. And we are #1 in Canada for providing a hands-on learning experience, with about 96% of our graduates are employed within 6 months of graduation. So this is one of the reasons why students choose to study at Waterloo, not only for the strength of the math and engineering programs, but for our unique co-op programs as well. And when you pair these institutional brag points with faculty brag points, a Waterloo degree in math or engineering becomes pretty compelling. So we're pretty popular, which is why I think you're on the call today. Lots of students have interest in our math and engineering programs, but let's just highlight some of the faculty specific brag points and rankings that we see from a number of different outlets all around the world. For the Faculty of Math, we're the only Faculty of Mathematics in North America, which includes our popular computer science program. Here at Waterloo, math is not just a department in another faculty. We are a dedicated faculty to math and computer science. We're the largest center for math and CS teaching research. So there's many ways for your students to tailor your math and CS degree here at UW. We're top 5 in Canada for math, top 43 in the world, and we're top 3 in computer science in Canada and top 22 in the world. So there's lots to brag about there. And for engineering, we're #2 in Canada and top 40 in the world for our engineering programs. And something that's unique about engineering is students are admitted directly into their engineering program. So you're in your specialized program right from day one. There's not a general first year. So a lot of students like that. And all of the engineering programs have cooperative education built right in. So it's a mandatory part of their degree experience here. And I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Bill, who will speak a little bit more about the engineering programs.
Thanks, Meg. So my name is Bill Bishop. I'm Director of Admissions for the Faculty of Engineering. And I have the lucky pleasure of being able to review all the applications and select students for the programs, and I really look forward to the upcoming cycle. We offer 15 programs in the Faculty of Engineering, 14 of which are engineering programs, and 1 is a dedicated architecture program. The programs range from the more traditional disciplines of civil engineering, chemical engineering, mechanical engineering, to some more niche programs such as architectural engineering, which combines some of the skills of architecture with civil engineering, and programs like nanotechnology engineering, which looks at the forefront of the design of things at the nanoscale level, including different chemical processes, semiconductors, and material science. We also have a very strong program in software engineering that we're well known for. We have a very large program in electrical and computer engineering, And we have a systems design engineering department that offers not only a program in systems design engineering, which looks at the broad design of all the systems around us, but also a program in biomedical engineering that really looks at the forefront of medical innovations. One of the challenges is trying to help students identify what program may be the right fit for them. We've gone through several iterations of coming up with a short quiz that students can take to try to at least isolate a subset of engineering programs that might be the right fit for them. We've developed some research in-house, and there's a design project group that went through the design of the system. They came up with a really great app, a little quiz that you can take. The QR code that's on the screen here allows students to take that. And I've heard that students even going to other universities sometimes use this as a starting point for their research into engineering programs. So it might be a good tool for your students to use. Now I'll pass it back to Meg to talk about the Faculty of Mathematics.
I do love that quiz. I wish we had something similar in the Faculty of Math. But as I mentioned before, we are the only Faculty of Mathematics in North America. So we are the largest center for math and CS teaching and research. And really, what does this mean for your students? It means that we just have so much variety, and we have so much breadth in the courses and the programs and the majors that we offer. So there's so many ways for your students to tailor their math and CS degree here at UW. You can see all of the programs. What's listed on the page here is our entry programs and also the majors that students can major in once they're here at Waterloo. So I think the take home for you today is that if you have students who love mathematics, love statistics, love computer science, and they know they're strong in these areas and they want to apply those out in the workforce once they're done their university, Waterloo is like a Disneyland for mathematicians and computer scientists. So there's so many ways to tailor their degree to make it specific to them. We actually divide our programs into sort of 3 themed areas, we'll call it. So we have the honors math program. This is a great program for students who know they love math, they're strong in mathematics, but maybe don't know what they want to major in. And that's okay. This is a flexible program. You can come in, everybody has the same core math courses in their first year, and you can take an intro to statistics or combinatorics and optimization or a data science course, figure out what you like and what you're good at. Most students don't declare their major until 2nd or 3rd year. Some popular majors right now include actuarial science. We draw students from all around the world to come for that major, data science, and combinatorics and optimization. The other theme that we have is our math and business theme. This is for students who want to basically graduate with their Bachelor of Mathematics or Computer Science, but also have the business sense and capabilities for after graduation. Popular programs here include Math Chartered Professional Accountancy, or our Financial Analysis and Risk Management program. And we also have double degree programs that we share with Wilfrid Laurier across the street, where students study their math degree with us and then their business degree with Laurier. And as I mentioned before, the Faculty of Math is also home to our computer science programs, our very popular CS programs. So I believe I'll pass it back to you, Bill.
Thanks, Meg. So I'll talk a little bit about the difference between computer science, software engineering, and computer engineering, since this is probably the most frequently asked question that we get from both students and guidance counselors. Computer science is a flagship program for the University of Waterloo. Students graduate with a Bachelor of Computer Science from that program, and they basically focus on the study of software and algorithms, and as well the limits of computation. Students are ideally prepared for jobs in the software industry and all aspects of software design. The key principal advantage of computer science is that it's a very flexible program, and as Meg alluded to, there's several variations of the computer science program. You can do a traditional 4-year program. You can do a 5-year co-op program. You have the ability to do the double degree program. So there's lots of options available to students. Of course, it will open up every career path within the software industry. So if you want to become a software developer, a games developer, a database developer, or a development analyst, all of these positions will be open to students that study in that program. Software engineering is a program that's jointly offered by the Faculty of Math and the Faculty of Engineering. It combines the computer science program with the engineering principles and practices from the discipline of computer engineering. It allows students to understand not only the hardware side of the computer, but also the software side of the computer. And students graduate with a unique degree in a Bachelor of Software Engineering. There's very few schools that actually offer a degree in a Bachelor of Software Engineering. So it's quite unusual to see that. It is an accredited program by the Professional Engineering Accreditation Body, the Canadian Engineering Accreditation Board. And it is a program that generally is a bit less flexible, but what it is good for is for students who know that they want to do a little bit of computer hardware, they know they want to do a little bit of computer software, and they really don't want to have to deal with trying to figure out what courses they want to take. It will ideally prepare them for careers in the software industry, and also it will prepare them as well for careers that may be more engineering focused. So very much looking at the design of engineering systems that involve software. It only comes in a 5-year co-op program, so that's an important distinction between computer science and software engineering. And the program itself is just a little bit less flexible in its course selection and what's allowed. As far as the careers go, software developer, of course, is a position that you can do from software engineering. That's probably what most of the graduates do. Of course, you could also go on to engineering positions, and sometimes they refer to people as software architects, basically designing the high-level systems that work together. And of course, you could work in quality assurance or project management as well. Computer engineering strays a bit more towards the hardware side of the computer system. This program really focuses on the design and development of computing devices and systems. Of course, software is a big part of that as well. Students in this program graduate with a Bachelor of Applied Science. It's again an engineering accredited program, and programming experience is strongly recommended for students going into this program. Much like software engineering, it has a fixed course load and a fixed course schedule. There are, of course, electives that can be taken in 3rd and 4th year, much like software engineering, but the first couple of years of the program are very much fixed in terms of what students will study. It is, again, only available in a 5-year program. That's a co-op program. And it will also lead to careers in software development. In fact, the vast majority of our graduates from computer engineering work in software development, but it will also lead to positions such as a hardware design engineer, where you might be working for Intel or NVIDIA on next generation hardware systems. You could be working behind the scenes in an embedded systems position, developing some of the devices and tools that we use in our everyday lives, including televisions, cell phones, and satellite dishes, and so on. Of course, you could also be involved in things that are more towards the electrical engineering spectrum as well, including network design and robotics engineering. And this slide just kind of shows the overlap between the programs. Note that at the center of all 3 of the programs, there's software, there's artificial intelligence, and of course, co-op is available to all 3 of the programs. If you look more towards the right-hand side of this image, you see that CS has some areas that are unique to CS, such as data science and some of the theoretical statistics and underpinnings of computer science that you might not see as much of in, say, computer engineering or software engineering. In software engineering, you see a little bit more of a focus on software requirements, testing, the need for testability of the software, a little bit more emphasis on the architecture of the software. As you move towards computer engineering, you obviously see a move more towards the hardware side of computer system design. So more towards things such as applications in autonomous vehicles, chip design, robotics, and of course, all the engineering programs emphasize teamwork and the basic principles of engineering science. So now I'll pass it back to Meg to talk a little bit more.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. Bill just obviously went into detail there and described some of the similarities, but some of the differences of our three most popular programs that we share between our two faculties. This is a commonly asked question. But in reality, we're only scratching the surface of all of the programs that the Faculty of Math and the Faculty of Engineering offer here at UW. So we just wanted to highlight that there are the three websites you see on your screen there. Those are our future student websites, and there's much more in-depth information on programs, tuition, how to get connected with us, trying to figure out which program is the right fit for your students. So I would encourage you to bookmark those websites so that they can be used as a resource in the future. And really, we see our job in recruitment, or my job in recruitment anyways, to help guide students and guide counselors and inform them to make sure that we find the right fit for your students. So again, I would encourage you to take a peek at some of our resources online, and we go into much more detail there. Back over to you, Bill, for admission requirements.
Okay, great. So I'll talk a little bit about some of the required courses that are needed if you're studying in the Ontario curriculum first. For the Faculty of Engineering, we look for advanced functions, calculus and vectors, chemistry, physics, English, and one other 4U or 4M course. A required final grade of at least 70% is necessary to be considered for admission. A minimum 85% average in the 6 required courses is also required. When we look at software engineering applicants, we do expect some prior programming experience, either demonstrated through coursework, that could be a computer science course in high school, for example, or through some other activity, which could include work placements, it could include extracurricular activities, or it could include online courses of some sort. For the mathematics and computer science programs, advanced functions, calculus, and vectors are both required, the 2 math courses, of course. There's also a need for any grade 12 English course at the university level, 1 other 4U course, and 2 other 4U or 4M courses. For those who may be studying in the American curriculum, generally speaking, engineering looks for AP Calculus and AP Physics. We expect to see some sort of algebra or pre-calculus, chemistry and grade 12 English, as well as 1 other grade 12 academic course. I always do encourage students to reach out to us if they have any concerns about the course requirements. There is the ability in some cases to substitute courses for AP Physics and AP Calculus, depending upon where the students have studied and what courses are available to them. Generally speaking, the minimum final grade is 75% in the American curriculum, and a minimum average of 88% is required. Again, software engineering requires programming experience. In math and computer science, the minimum would be AP Calculus with a minimum final grade of 4, algebra, pre-calculus, grade 12 English, and another grade 12 academic course for a minimum overall average of 90% in grade 12. It's important to note that ACT and SAT results are not required. Students admitted to engineering programs are also not eligible for AP transfer credits. So that's important to understand. If we move on to the IB curriculum, engineering looks for mathematics, analysis, and approaches at the HL level, physics at the HL level, chemistry, English A, and 1 other HL or SL course. A minimum final grade of 4 is required in each of these courses for a total of 32, and software engineering, of course, requires programming experience. For math, the total is also 32. again with HL analysis and approaches with a minimum of 6 in that course, and HL or SL English A. There has to, of course, be a total of 6 IB courses, and at least 3 must be at the high level. 6s and 7s are generally recommended for all of our competitive programs. The total scores do exclude the diploma points, and students admitted to an engineering program will not be eligible for IB transfer credits. And for students that may be studying in the Indian curriculum, we're looking for the standard 12 mathematics, physics, chemistry, and English, as well as one other standard 12 course. A minimum final grade of 70% is required in each of these courses, and for software engineering, programming experience is required. For math and computer science, the standard 12 mathematics. Note that the standard 12 applied mathematics is not accepted. A minimum final grade of 90% is required. So that's an important standard to meet. Standard 12 English and one other standard 12 course with a minimum final grade of 90%. All standard 12 courses with a minimum final grade of 80%. Students will be evaluated for admission based on 10th board examination results, final 11th school grades, and predicted grade 12 board results. One thing to keep in mind is generally when we talk about these requirements for courses, these are the minimums that need to be met. For most of our highly competitive programs, we're well above the minimums these days. And now I'll talk a little bit about admission probabilities for the Faculty of Engineering. We evaluate all applicants that apply for admission. So we do not exclude any applicants from the admissions process. We go through every application we receive. Successful applicants often have an admission average in the high 80s to mid 90s. Of course, if it's software engineering, that may be even higher. The admission information form plays a critical role in the selection of applicants, particularly for the most competitive programs. Online interviews can be an asset to engineering applicants, and we do encourage all of our applicants to complete an online interview using the Kira Talent system. All applicants are invited to complete that when they complete their application to us. No admission average guarantees an offer of admission. We do individual selection of our applicants in the Faculty of Engineering. So there's always a chance that students with a lower average will get in and a student with a higher average will not get in. Really, that's where the admission information form plays a critical role in the decision process. And here we see the admission probabilities based on last year's performance. So we have divided the programs into 3 tiers. In our top tier, we have software engineering and biomedical engineering. These are the most competitive programs to get into. They are relatively small in size. Biomedical engineering looks for approximately 90 students in a year, and software looks for approximately 125. And they have high numbers of applicants, so it's to be expected the probability of acceptance would be relatively low. What we say is that if a student has a 95 plus average, they have a 1 in 3 shot roughly of being admitted to those programs. If their average is lower, obviously the probability of acceptance goes down. For our second tier programs, computer engineering, electrical engineering, mechanical, mechatronics, and systems design, a 95 plus average will more often than not result in a student receiving an offer of admittance to the University of Waterloo. If they have an average in the low 90s, they have about a 1 in 5 shot. And if it's in the high 80s, the percentage goes down significantly. When we get to the tier that includes architectural, chemical engineering, civil engineering, environmental engineering, geological engineering, management engineering, and nanotechnology engineering, the programs are a little bit less competitive in terms of admissions. They are still outstanding programs, but often we see fewer applicants to these programs. So we are able to admit a larger percentage of the applicant pool. A student with a 95 plus average, for example, would more often than not receive an offer of admittance to the program. It's about 95% chance. A student with a low 90s average has a really good chance of being admitted to these programs, and a student with a high 80s average still has a very good chance of being offered admission to these programs. I do encourage students to apply if they're close to the 85% range, because sometimes, of course, grades will change as they go through grade 12. So maybe if in grade 11, they're an 83% average, they may be competitive by the time they finish their grade 12 courses. Just to give you an idea of how many applicants apply to engineering, we have about 14,000 unique applicants that apply to Waterloo Engineering every year. There's about 4,000 applicants that are offered admission. About 2,000 of these applicants will accept their offers of admission, which is one of the highest rates in Canada. And 1,800 students approximately will register for first-year engineering courses, with our largest class typically being computer engineering and our smallest class typically being geological engineering. Now I'll pass it back to Meg.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about the admissions information form, or as we call it, AIF for short. This is our supplemental application form that is a required part of the admissions process for both math and engineering programs. This really is your students' chance to brag. It's not a time to be humble. They need to tell us succinctly and clearly what they are involved in after school and on weekends, even during school for that matter, that makes them who they are. We want to see how they can manage their time, juggle their priorities. Are there activities that show leadership or a tremendous time commitment? We're trying to get to know the students more than just what the grade on a transcript tells us, and try to figure out, will they be a great member of the community here at Waterloo? This really is their chance to tell us about extracurricular activities, any enrichment courses. Maybe they have a part-time job, or they're volunteering sort of above and beyond the mandatory high school volunteer hours. It's their chance to tell us about any external awards or achievements. And it's also their chance to tell us, why do they want to come to Waterloo, and why do they want to study in engineering or in math. For engineering, as you can see there in purple, they also have the opportunity to tell us sort of their backup or their alternate program that they would like to be considered for, because students can only apply for one engineering program. So for example, if I wanted mechanical engineering and I thought, okay, if I don't get into mechanical engineering, I would like to be looked at for electrical, I can list electrical on my AIF. Bill will correct me if I'm wrong here the next time he comes up on the screen, but I believe the only two exceptions to this rule is you can't list software engineering and biomedical engineering as an alternate on the AIF, just because of their competitive nature already. So if your students want software or biomedical, they need to apply to that program directly. As Bill sort of alluded or mentioned, a well-written AIF significantly improves the likelihood of admission. So tell your students to take it seriously, make sure to proofread, really think about their responses before they submit, because both the admissions committee and the Faculty of Math and in engineering, we take the time to read and score each AIF. So it's a serious part of the admissions process. Back over to you, Bill.
Thanks. So I'll talk a little bit about the engineering online video interview. We offer an online video interview service to our students where they can complete some short videos responding to questions as if they were part of an interview with a co-op employer, for example. We highly recommend that students complete this online video interview, as it although it's optional for admission consideration, it is required for scholarship consideration for certain scholarships, and it significantly improves the likelihood of admission. A poor interview will never harm a student's chances of admission, but a great interview will significantly improve a chance of admission. Generally speaking, the interview consists of 2 questions. The questions generally examine why you want to study engineering and why you're a good fit for the program you've applied to join. For each of the questions, applicants are given a short amount of time to compose and record a video response. The system is maintained by a third party. It's highly reliable, and it's available for use outside of Canada. So for those that may be joining from abroad, note that they do have service in all of the major countries. So there will not be access issues depending upon where you're applying from. So that's very good for most of the students applying. I should also point out that there are other programs at the University of Waterloo that do online video interviews. I don't have an extensive list of that, but I know that there are other programs outside of math and engineering that use the Kira Talent system. So I'll pass it back to Meg to talk about the English language requirements.
Okay, thanks, Bill. For your students who haven't been studying in English for the last 4 years of high school, or their English isn't their first language, they will have to submit an English language test score from one of the providers that you see on the screen here. So you can see the minimums that are listed on the screen. And this is the minimum to get into your academic program. So if you're applying to math or engineering, you need at least a 90 overall in TOEFL, for example, with 25 in writing and 25 in speaking. Now, if you have a really strong student academically, so they have the grades, but their ELR score, falls just below, we will still consider them. So they're strong academically, their ELR is low. We'll give them an alternate offer to our base program. And this is the Bridge to Academic Success in English, where basically we will help bring their English up to speed and get ready for the academic terms, get ready for the co-op terms. So once they successfully complete base, they then move into degree studies and start their engineering or math degree with us. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about tuition and scholarships. We obviously can't talk about going to university without talking about finances, and this is a huge part of the equation for many students and families, as you all know. I'm sure you have these conversations yourselves. You'll see on the screen here, the tuition is listed in a range in Canadian dollars, which I realize is maybe not the most helpful, but basically we have to do that because each program at Waterloo has a different tuition fee. So the link at the top of the screen there is a fantastic resource where you or the students can go through. You can choose, I'm a Canadian citizen, or I'm an international student. This is the program I'm interested in. I want to live on campus, or I want to live off campus. And you can plug in basically your specific needs or your students' needs to get a real-time budget. So yeah, there's lots of things to consider, but I would encourage you to go to that website to really get specific costs for you and your students. Students, you can see at the bottom of the screen there, we talk a bit about co-op. Students should also consider applying to programs with co-op. Now, we mentioned before, co-op is a mandatory part of the Faculty of Engineering program. So if you're in engineering, you're participating in the co-op program. But for example, in math, you can choose whether or not you want to participate in the co-op program. So co-op is obviously a great way to help pay for your education throughout your time here at Waterloo. So bookmark that site, and we'll go to the next slide where we talk specifically about scholarships. So I've got a slide here talking about the Faculty of Math scholarships, and Bill will come back on and talk about his engineering ones. But essentially at Waterloo, we have general entrance scholarships, and these come from the President's office. So every applicant to us is automatically considered for what we call the President's scholarships. So those you don't have to apply for. But then in math and engineering and all the other faculties, we have faculty-specific scholarships. For us in math, you know, obviously you're investing a lot in your education or your students, and we want to invest back in those strong students. So we have entrance scholarships anywhere from $1,000 to $10,000, where we automatically consider all first-year students for these. But the one catch is we like to see students participating in our CEMC math contests. So these would be the Euclid contest, which you've probably heard of, or the Canadian Senior Math Contest, which runs in November, or the Canadian Computing Competition. So we ask students participate in that, and then that makes them eligible for those scholarships. Very easy to register. You can register, the school registers right through the CEMC. We ship the schools, the contest, students right in the school, and then the school ships them back to us, and then we score the contests to consider students for the scholarships. And then we have a second, what I like to call application-based scholarships. So that's where you'll see on the screen, national and global scholarships. These ones require an application because these are high value, sort of heavy hitting scholarships. We have scholarships that go up to $40,000 one-time first-year entry award. I will say to you, councillors, that last year we saw a really, I don't want to say a poor take-up rate, but we saw low applications for these scholarships. So if you can encourage your students to apply, we need great students to apply, and why not apply and you know, maybe have a chance at some free money. And I believe Bill's slide is next. Yes, back over to you, Bill.
Thanks, Meg. So unfortunately, the Faculty of Engineering doesn't have an entrance scholarship for every student that applies. I mean, in an ideal world, we'd love to support every student that comes to Waterloo. We do have a fairly modest set of entrance scholarships that are available beyond what we call our scholarship grid, which is the guaranteed amount that gets given to students from high schools coming to Waterloo based on their average. I do want to highlight, of course, the scholarships that we have for Black and Indigenous students. These are the only ones that really require a separate application. And much like what Meg has mentioned, the response rate typically is quite low for applications. So it'd be great if guidance counselors could draw students' attention to those awards. So that we can ensure that those get given out every year to eligible students. We do have one award currently that's valued at $18,250, still relatively modest compared to the cost of tuition these days. We are working currently on trying to get more scholarships, and hopefully by the time students actually wind up applying, we may even have more scholarships than what you see here. There are some international awards valued at $10,000 a year. And there are, of course, the big scholarship programs like the Loran Scholarship and the Schulich Scholarship Program that are out there that many of our top engineering applicants wind up competing for. Moving on. I can talk a little bit about the admissions process and the timelines. Fall 2024 applications are currently open. This is the earliest it's been open to all applicants. It doesn't matter what school you go to or what region you're from. At this point, it is open for applying. And in fact, we've already had well over 200 students apply so far. The application deadline for most Waterloo programs is February 1st. I'll just draw your attention to the fact that engineering has a new early consideration deadline of December 15th. This is, of course, if students want to be considered in our early round of admission that happens in March. The reason why we've put this early consideration deadline in is that we want to provide adequate time to review the admission information forms of our applicants to ensure that we can properly assess all of the applicants that we have by that March round. If a student misses out on the early consideration deadline, don't worry. They'll still be considered as long as they get their application in by February 1st. They'll be considered in the May round, which is the main round of admissions. Students apply through the Ontario University's Application Centre for those that are outside of Ontario. This is a center that handles admission and applications for all universities in Ontario. So it's somewhat similar in function to the Common App, but obviously an Ontario-specific context. Waterloo confirmation of application typically comes 5 to 10 days after the student has submitted their application on the UAC site. The confirmation email will include next steps, including instructions to set up an account on our student portal, to submit supporting documents if any are required, and to complete the admission information form. All supporting documentation in the AIF must be submitted by February 16th, 2024, and students that are not submitting the AIF by that deadline will be excluded from the admissions process. Note that if students want to be considered in the early round, engineering AIFs must be submitted by January 15th, 2024. Now, new this year is this early consideration deadline. This is going to allow us to more completely evaluate our applicants in the March round. So to be eligible for early consideration, applicants must do the following. They need to complete their application by December 15th at midnight. They have to complete the admission information form, as I indicated, by January 15th, and complete the online video interview as well. That's strongly recommended. Of course, if a student does not complete the online video interview, they will still be considered. Note that this is specific to engineering and it is not required by math at this time. Applicants not receiving admission offers in the early consideration admissions round will still be considered in the final round in May 2024. So we encourage students to apply in the early consideration round because that will give them the best chance of being admitted to an engineering program. It's important to note that the timing of courses being completed will not factor into the decisions. So a student can apply for the early consideration round even if they haven't completed their grade 12 courses. As far as when are the decisions made for engineering, there's an early round in mid-March and the final round is the first week in May. The Faculty of Mathematics makes a few offers in March, but typically makes most of its offers in the mid-May round once all the grades are known. And just some hot topics. Engineering as a second language courses. If a student has taken one of those within the last 2 years and they've applied to the Faculty of Engineering, we may require them to submit an English language proficiency test. This is just done to ensure that students have adequate English language skills for the program that they're entering into. We found in the past that students that are taking ESL or ELD courses within 2 years of studying at the University of Waterloo, they often struggle with meeting the English language proficiency requirements. Transferring programs, all engineering programs at Waterloo are direct entry, and transferring between programs is difficult. Often, if it is possible, it delays graduation. So we encourage students to do their research into the programs and make sure that they choose a program that fits them. For mathematics, programs are competitive for entry, and transfers, again, are very hard to come by, particularly into programs such as computer science, which of course is a highly competitive program. Another popular question is, will the ranking of the program at the University of Waterloo affect the consideration of the application? How an applicant ranks a Waterloo program on their application does not have any impact on an admission decision. We will look at all applicants that apply to our programs. Some more hot topics. Repeated online summer school courses. In engineering, repeating a required course is only recommended if a student's previous grade in a required course is below 70%. In that case, there's, of course, a chance that even with a penalty being assigned, the student will improve their overall average, and it will also ensure that the student is, of course, ready to come to Waterloo Engineering. If the first attempt of a course that was repeated resulted in a mark below 70%, we'll deduct 5% from the admission average of the applicant. If the first attempt resulted in a grade of 70% or higher, we use the original grade when calculating their admission average. So that's just important to realize how that affects their admission average and how we assess the applicants. Students taking online courses through their school or school board are not penalized in any way, shape, or form. We review all other online courses on a case-by-case basis, and grades will be adjusted for summer school courses, as often this is done by students to adjust their course workload. And we find that students that spread out the workload may struggle with the rigor of the engineering workload when they get to university. For mathematics and computer science, repeating a required course or taking a course outside of regular day school can jeopardize an applicant's chances of being admitted to the Faculty of Engineering or Faculty of Mathematics. Students should take all their courses in regular day school and do well in their first attempt. And just a note that our summer school policy for engineering is applicable for students who do not have scheduled courses in the summer as part of their regular studies. Of course, if you're studying at a school where regularly you go to school in the summer school courses are not adjusted. So now I'll pass it back to Meg.
Okay. Thanks, Bill. We have certainly, between the two of us, we've shared a lot of information today. But we just wanted to highlight there's many more ways and many more opportunities to learn more about whether it's a program or an admissions policy, learn more about Waterloo Math and Engineering at Waterloo. We do, obviously, once we admit your students, we have a vested interest and we want to make sure that everyone is going to be successful. We do have many supports in place to make sure that students can be as successful as possible. We just need to encourage them to go out and use the supports in place. So what we've listed on the screen here, in the springtime, hopefully when your students get admitted, we can talk about all of the supports that we have in place. And I know there's people around the world tuning in today, but we have many international student supports, whether that's international orientation, whether that's part of the airport pickup where we pick them up in Toronto and shuttle them, to campus. Welcome activities. The Student Success Office runs a peer-to-peer support system where we link students up with someone who is from their home country to kind of mentor them throughout the year. And whether you're coming from, Singapore or whether you're coming from Oshawa, we want to make sure that all students feel supported. I thought I would highlight engineering's first year office and the mathematics undergrad office, which really are just resources for academic support. We introduce students to their academic advisor, whether it's getting enrolled in courses or exam scheduling, or you want to speak to a counselor because you're feeling homesick or that type of thing. We just want to make sure that every student is supported in their transition to the engineering and math community here. We want your students to succeed, and we have the supports in place to do so. Okay, so we've shared a lot of information today. We do have all of this information online. I know sometimes it can be tricky to navigate through all of our resources and websites. We thought we would put this in for you. I believe Abby is going to share the recording and the slides with anyone that's registered for this call. So you will have access to this. These would be great pages to bookmark. You can see more information. You can order brochures for your guidance office and your students. You can see more testimonials. We've got many more webinars and virtual campus tours. We've run daily tours. And we also wanted to highlight that the Women in Engineering group puts together a free tutoring program as well. So I will just wrap with the next slide. We do want to highlight, so there's many ways to sort of stay engaged with Waterloo over the next couple months. And this is probably more specific for your students, but you'd be welcome to join as well. You can see everything in purple there is related to the Faculty of Engineering, and everything in pink is the Faculty of Math. So we talked a little bit earlier about some of the math contests. The senior math contest, the Canadian Senior Math Contest, happens in November this year, and we're running problem-solving workshops every other week in October and November just to get students ready for that contest, to get them excited about it. And then you can see engineering has a full series on finding the right fit for the program, how to apply to Waterloo Engineering, tips for applying, and then they have the Chemical Engineering Guidance Counselor webinar coming up Friday, November 17th. So these are all of our virtual offerings, but I think Abby would like for me to also mention, you know, you can join us at the Ontario Universities Fair. Waterloo will have a booth there at the Metro Toronto Convention Centre mid-October. I want to say the 21st and 22nd that weekend. And we will also have our fall open house. So everyone's welcome to come and see our facilities, meet our professors, meet our students, take tours, and really try and help students find the right fit for them. And that's happening the last Saturday in November as well. All right. And I think I can see Abby coming back on there.
Yes, thank you so much. I just wanted to highlight again, we have a couple of emails here. If you do have any questions after this webinar, you can email our admissions team within engineering at enginfo@uwaterloo.ca and mathematics at mathinfo@uwaterloo.ca. But at this point, I will stop sharing my screen. And we don't have a lot of time. We'd like to take some time to answer a few of the questions and some of the common questions that have been coming into the Q&A. This first one that I wanted to ask is for you, Bill. So two that are related to adjustment factors or ranking high schools. So wondering within Ontario how much consideration or weight is given to high schools where a student attends, and then also because sometimes students can publicly access that adjustment factor for their specific high school, they might get discouraged based on that number. So how can guidance counselors help to encourage them still thinking about Waterloo Engineering as a reasonable choice?
Yeah, so I mean, the first thing to keep in mind is that the adjustment factor is really just compensating for what we see as trends in grades at a particular high school. It only comes into play for a small percentage of Ontario high schools. The vast majority of schools are unadjusted or adjusted by the average, I should say. As far as getting students interested about applying, I mean, I think the interest should come from what they want to do. And if they're driven to be engineers, certainly coming to Waterloo Engineering is a great choice. And that should be motivation to apply, regardless of the school that they're coming from. Last year, we had students who applied from high adjustment factor schools that got into software engineering. They got into biomedical engineering. So it's still an individual assessment of the applicant. We look at the AIF and make an assessment based on what we see. And there can be great students that apply from high adjustment factor schools, so that's less of an issue. The other thing I would point out is that the adjustment factors that have been presented online, of course, are not the current adjustment factors that will be used. We haven't even calculated them for the upcoming cycle, and there's no way to know what the adjustment factor will be at this point in time. So it may be that a school appears on the adjustment factor list right now on one of the older lists, but it may not be on the list this coming year.
Thank you for that. And Meg, I'll ask you another one as well. We had a lot of questions coming in about your math contests. So maybe if you just want to expand a bit on what students can do to prepare for those math contests, and also how does a student participate if their school isn't registered for a contest?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, contests are certainly, they're becoming part of the culture here if you want to apply to math or computer science at Waterloo. What I will say right off the bat is contests are not required as a part of admission here. We use contests really to make students eligible for those scholarships that we talked about, the entrance scholarships. So we like to see students participating in those contests, and then that makes them eligible for scholarships. A question I got asked in the chat is, how do you use contest scores towards admission? And really our motto is go and participate. We want to see the participation. If you have a bad day, that's okay. It can't hurt your application. If you have a good day, it can help you. So really it can only help your situation. It can help students gain admission, but really if they have a rough day, they don't need to panic. Most people on the call, if you're within Ontario, a lot of the schools participate in the Euclid. A lot of schools don't know about the Canadian Senior Math Contest that happens in November. And we're actually, I'll put in that later, but we're running virtual problem solving workshops in November where your students can come for an hour and a half in the evening to get some problem solving tips. And Abby, I think you asked me another question there. It was if your school doesn't register. So you can work directly with the CEMC. If your school won't register for the Euclid contests, then we can work with the student to maybe write the contest at a neighboring high school. But the contests are written all over the world. We had, I think, 27,000 students write it last April, the Euclid. We have almost representation from every country. So I would encourage you to maybe help register for those students who might be applying to math.
Thank you so much for that. All right, so we are at time, so I'll have to wrap us up here. But again, if you have any questions that we weren't able to address in this webinar, if any more come up afterwards, please do email us at enginfo or mathinfo@uwaterloo.ca. I will be sending out the recording of today's session as well as the slides that were presented, so you can review them in your own time. And thank you so much again for joining our session and expressing an interest in helping to support your students. Have a great day, everyone.